Hi, welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman. If you have a lot of strips in your stash that you want to use, I have a wonderful pattern today for you. It's a very simple one. I'm calling it Sunshine and Shadows, and I can't wait to show you how to use it. It doesn't matter how wide your strips are. I'm using 2-inch wide strips. Maybe you have 2.5 inch or 1.5 inch or 3.5 inch. It doesn't matter what the width size is, and I'll show you that in a moment. But you're going to be able to make that beautiful quilt using your stash of strips, and it's a beautiful block called Sunshine and Shadows. So here is a look at this quilt, and there are 6.5 inch squares that I have created using my 2-inch wide strips. So here is a dark one, here's a light one, here's a dark one, and so on and so forth. So I've got 5 dark blocks and 4 light blocks. Basically, they're the mirror image or the positive negative. So this one would be sunshine, this would be shadows. And the dark is surrounding the center here. The light is surrounding the center here. So dark around light, light around dark. And it's a very, very simple project to make. Let me show you how I've done this. This is simply a table runner. It's a nice wide and long table runner for a good size dining room table. I do have a PDF that is attached in the description box for you. And if you're not able to access the description box, you can go out to my website, quiltingwithlori.com, and go to my most recent blog, which will give you this information, the video, as well as the PDF. So have fun checking that out. But the PDF does explain how to put it together. It's very simple. It also gives you what you would need to do, the information on cutting instructions. If you're using 2-inch width of fabric strips, 2.5 or 3.5 inch width of fabric strips, it lets you know how long you need to cut those to put this together. And you'll see here, there's 2 blocks. This one would be the shadows. This one is the sunshine. It's the light surrounding the dark and the dark surrounding the light. And I've put it together here. It's a 9-patch, really, this particular quilt on the PDF. There's 5 of the shadows blocks and 4 of the sunshine blocks. I actually created this twice to make this table runner, and then I sashed it in the center with the same light fabric here, and then I have some sashing cornerstones here as well. And then I finished it with a blue print. So that's what I'm going to do here. I need to get it quilted, but I wanted to make sure that you got a good look at this particular quilt. If any of you are not familiar with my Speedy Solutions to Cut and Organize Your Scrap Stash, I do have a techniques book and a video. There's a corresponding video on the home page of my YouTube channel. You can watch the video that goes along with this techniques book. Teaches you everything you need to know to get your scraps stash cut, sorted, organized, stored, and ready to use to make great quilts. And then I also have a corresponding patterns book with 12 additional patterns. Between the 2 books, you get all of the techniques and you get a total of 17 scrappy patterns. So let's get to work on this quilt and see how we can put these 2 blocks together. I went into my 2-inch strip bin and pulled lights and darks and subcut them. And for my 2-inch wide strips, I subcut them into 3.5 inch segments. So you see here a bunch of darks that are cut 3.5 inches long and lights that are cut 3.5 inches long. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you how to put this together. Let's say you want your quilt to be a little bit more controlled scrappy. So I'm going to do both a sunshine and a shadows block in just this red and white. I found a couple of strips in here that are quite long, and I should have plenty to make both of these blocks here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. What I did as I was working through and creating all of these blocks and cutting up my strips, as you got to the end of the strip, there'd be little leftover chunks and pieces. And what I did is I made some crumb blocks just to use up some of the leftover pieces that I had. I didn't want it to go to waste, so I just crumbed them up, and then I scored these up into 6.5 inch squares. And I'll continue doing that as I'm working with this 2-inch strip bin. And then once I get quite a few of these blocks together that I can make a wonderful crumb quilt. And I do have some crumb quilt tutorials that I will link below. I did a whole series on that, so I'll link those in the description box below as well. So I'll have the book set information, the video, as well as these crumb quilt series. So I'll have that for you. But now let's go ahead and get these strips here subcut and put together in these very simple blocks. I've gone through my strips here and cut up some lights or some creams and a bunch of reds. So now I can put my blocks together. I think I'll start with this shadows block here, which is the dark that's surrounding the light. So I'm going to grab 2 of the light scraps, and I'm going to make sure they're different. And they're going to be sewn on this vertical long edge. So they'll be sewn together that direction. Then you're going to sew the dark to the top and the bottom. And it's important that it gets sewn in this fashion or it won't fit together properly. So sew the center section first, sew the top and the bottom to that. They will fit once your seam allowance is in there. And then we're going to go ahead and sew the outside edges together, and they're going to be sewn on the short edge. So you're going to sew these 2 together on the short edge. We'll grab this one here. And we'll grab this one here, and you'll sew, whoops, I've got 2 of them. You'll sew that one together on the short edge. And then once this is sewn together and these are sewn, they will all fit beautifully. And then you'll square that up to 6.5 inches if you're using 2-inch wide strips. Just follow the measurements here. So that is the shadows. Now let's take a look at how we can put together the sunshine block. To create our sunshine block, we're going to start with the dark fabrics in the center. So I have my 2, I'm going to make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. Let's bring this down. Got my 2 dark ones in the center, and again, they are going to be sewn on the long seam. So they're going to be sewn and they'll be laying vertically in the block. Then we're going to start grabbing some light pieces here. We're going to sew the lights to the top and the bottom of this center section. Make sure that it's done in that order and make sure that these are staying vertically here. And then these are laying horizontally. Then we're going to start putting our side pieces together. And again, you're simply going to sew these on the short edge. Once this unit is put together, and you sew these together, then it will all work beautifully. Once it's sewn, it's going to be squared up, in this case, to 6.5 inches because I am using 2.5-inch wide with the fabric strips. In that last clip, I think I mistakenly said I'm using 2.5-inch wide strips. I am using 2-inch wide strips. So correction on that. All right, so I've sewn my darks together vertically, and they're going to lay vertically in the center of this square. Then I'm going to sew these on each side here. I've also, while I had that up there on the machine, I went ahead and just sewed these 2 together. And I've been pressing the seam allowances to the dark. You could certainly press your seam allowances open. It doesn't matter. I'm going to sew these on, press them, and then I can at last sew these edge pieces on, and then I'll have a complete block. It goes together really quickly. I do like to lay out each of my blocks next to me on by my sewing machine, and it just helps me to put everything together properly and in order, and things don't get all cattywampus or out of place. The sunshine block is finished. I still have to press it and then square it up. But these 2 dark rectangles are sewn together vertically. These light rectangles are sewn top and bottom horizontally. And these on the outside, these 2 on each side, are sewn on the short end, and then they're attached to the center section. So that finishes the block. What I've done here so far on the shadows portion is the 2 center ones. They're sewn vertically in the center, and then we'll sew these 2 dark ones, top and bottom. I have sewn these 2 together. They will fit on each side once this has been sewn together. Then they're going to be pressed and squared up. And of course, your PDF, make sure that you refer to that. It lets you know what size everything should be, and at the end, it shows you how to sew it together. But it also tells you what you should square up your block to, depending on the width of fabric strips that you're using. In my case, I'm using 2-inch wide width of fabric strips, so my squares need to be squared up to 6.5 inches. My Sunshine and Shadows blocks are finished, and they've been pressed and squared up to 6.5 inches. This will make a lovely quilt. If you have enough strips in your stash that can put together a 2-color quilt, blue and white or red and white or whatever color combination you'd like, that is also quite fun. And it's a great way to use up your strips. And I'm all about using up the scraps that I have in my quilt studio. Our scraps can produce some beautiful quilts. And this is just one pattern here that I'm sharing with you today. There are so many variations to this, and I can't wait to share with you some new block patterns that I will be sharing over the next few weeks. Using your strips and putting them together in different variations. Some will be positive, negative. Some of them will be mirror image. It'll be just a lot of fun, and I think you'll enjoy creating some gorgeous quilts with your scrap stash and using up your strips. Here's another idea for you. You could go through your strips and identify different colors that you have. I found a number of greens, and I put together a shadows block using the greens and creams. So every block in your quilt could be a different set of colors, which would make a beautiful scrappy quilt as well. You may not have enough scraps or strips in one color to do the whole quilt. In red and white or blue and white, but you could do each and every block in a particular color combination, and that would make a really pretty scrappy quilt. So these are just some ideas for you to try. I can't wait to see what you put together. I hope you'll share those pictures with me out on my Facebook group page. Scrap Up Your Stash, it's my Quilting with Lori Facebook page. Scrap Up Your Stash is the group page. And please post some pictures out there so we can all see what you're putting together. Be sure to stop back next week as we put together another block. It's going to be a variation using the same strips, but we're going to be putting things together in a different order. And you're going to enjoy seeing what you can create next week. So come on back next week to see that one. And again, don't forget to put the pieces or the crumbs together in a crumb block, which I've done here. I will link the videos in the description box below. If you're not able to get to the description box, just go out to my home page of my YouTube channel and go to that crumb quilt playlist, and you'll be able to find all of the videos there. Don't forget to grab the PDF either below in the description box or out on my website. Look in my blog there, quiltingwithlori.com. And there's lots of fun things out on my blog for you to check out. So I hope you'll take some time and visit that. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week and happy quilting.